Hey everybody, Scott Stevens here. Let's talk about wokeness. And I need your help with this one, so I want you to participate in this, baby. Oh boy, that was a cheater. All right, welcome back to another perspective. Scott Stevens here with a few of you showing up on this early mountain afternoon. And it was even in the last evening. I'm like, what the heck am I going to talk about it? I ended the show on Monday and wanted to talk about financial accountability, and that was sponsored or at least prompted by I believe it's called WeWire, a German PayPal-ish kind of company that suddenly was missing like, no. Oh, good. You did have music. You heard it. I did not hear it. Usually I get feedback, guys. So thanks for the note. And I don't need to say that again. And Vicky, that's kind of why I wear headphones, just to make sure I catch these things. But maybe the balance wasn't already up and set. But what I was kind of thinking was financial accountability. But there's so many moving parts in that, and not that there isn't with this other topic. But I kind of wanted to see how that kind of played out and just a bit more development of it. But this is something, this woke culture is kind of where I wanted to go today, and how that is taking over the news. It's taking over how we drive through some cities that are in the process of trying to defund the police to allow what are probably just the social justice warriors a little more free reign on what's going on in these cities. So it's a bit of a kind of an iffy topic because apparently I was born with some privilege, and that is a no-no in this day and age. So woke culture and how woke culture has changed, and it kind of started with woke back in the 1960s, and we'll get into the specifics of that. And it has evolved into, maybe not in this order, but they're fairly close, into the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been around 4+ years, and the woke business being around 50+ years. And of course, white privilege doesn't exist without the others. And then, of course, there's the social justice warriors who want to bring attention to all of this, all of these particular issues. And then once the social justice warriors get on, kindly, the rampage, then we have developed a cancel culture where if there's something that was done, even in an artist's, a politician's, a person of some note in culture, that they can go back and judge whether that issue, that point of view, that comment was proper or not, even outside of the context of the age, the era, the setting upon which that was. And some of them that kind of come to notice, to the forefront, have been the blackface issues. That was just something that apparently happened, not in my circles, but something that happened in the past. And then those that have been the social justice warriors engaging in the cancel culture cannot then take or engage in criticism. So then recently there is a name christened for that part of culture, and those are the snowflakes, because they melt under pressure. They melt under the little bit of heat applied to that point of view. And then the cancer culture, maybe that was appropriate. The cancel culture, with the mob access to the movement of the social justice warriors, has the ability to deplatform those voices which they disagree with, and that essentially results in an aspect of censorship. Good to get you on the right computer, Robin. I can know all about that business. So this is kind of where this I see this timeline of this issue happening. So the woke culture, as a political term of African American origin, refers to a perceived awareness of issues concerning social justice and racial justice. It is derived from the African American vernacular English expression "stay woke," whose grammatical aspect refers to a continuing awareness of these issues. Wikipedia. And with a lot of the movements, the anti-war movement, the free love movement, those of the 60s, sure, there was that awakening in culture as the Great Society and through LBJ, and those aspects kind of began to move from segregation to more of a support the community, and bring them all together, and support them. There was a definite shift in the democratic movement to do that with the black race. All right, woke. It's adjective, aware, knowledge about your community and the world, with the willingness to access and critique systems of oppression. So it's a recognition that we've got a problem. And ultimately, I think all of us would probably agree with that there is no perfect system out there. There's no perfect interaction between races. We're a world full of individuals, a world full of individuals with our own points of view, our own life experiences. And certainly there is a lot of heritage where there has been oppression. That is a fundamental, basic expression or experience of the animal kingdom. That's just kind of the way it is. Yeah, Vicky, you don't recognize that you could fix a problem until you've recognized it, and then once it's recognized, then we can begin to work on it in some degree. And so this woke culture has developed into the social justice warriors, SJWs, and it's really kind of difficult to thread a discussion across these issues because they're all intermixed, and yet they have applications across different societies, and how these different societies, whether they're in America, whether they're in Europe, whether they're in Africa or Asia, they've all had these kind of one oppressor over another. That has been an aspect of humanity probably since the beginning. There were always those that were stronger, smarter, cunning, conniving, more willing to use another for their own gains and purposes at the expense of another. I think that has just been part of culture. It's part of the human experience. It's part of being beaten down so that you can overcome it and then recognize and help others work themselves through the experience. So we'll hit this cancel culture. It honestly has really taken on a large aspect of the woke movement, the Me Too movement, the Black Lives movement. Is you see something you don't like, and there's a rage against it, right, Robin? Yeah, the definition makes sense because that's exactly what's happening, and it's kind of a, I don't want to say hipster movement, but something from the millennials, because they have been so prominent within social media, that being their primary means of communication. They've kind of taken the social justice warrior and turned it into the cancel culture as retribution for what they perceive as error. So to cancel somebody, usually a celebrity or other well-known figure, or even a friend in and amongst your smaller circle, that happens too. And we've seen kids traumatized by bullying through this culture, this aggressive culture. It means to stop giving support to that person. The act of canceling could entail boycotting an actor's movies, or no longer reading or promoting a writer's works. The reason for cancellations can vary, but usually is due to the person in question having expressed an objectionable opinion. Oh my goodness, that is the unpardonable sin, to express an objectionable opinion, or having conducted themselves in a way that is unacceptable, so that the continuing to patronize that person's work leaves a bitter taste. So the idea of canceling, and some have labeled it the cancel culture, has taken hold in recent years due to the conversations prompted by the Me Too movement and other movements that demand greater accountability from public figures. Now, in some ways, that isn't a bad thing, because often these public figures have been able to live with their feet not walk or touching the ground as they walk. They've been put on a platform. So when great responsibility is given, then much is expected. So there is an aspect of that you have to be on your best behavior. The term has been credited to Black users of Twitter, where it has been used as a hashtag. As troubling information comes to light regarding celebrities who were once popular, such as Bill Cosby — most of us are familiar with that story, as well as Michael Jackson, Roseanne Barr, and Louis C.K. — so come calls to cancel such figures. The cancellation is akin to a canceled contract, severing the relationship that once linked a performer to their fans. As Bromwich writes in the New York Times, the word echoes the trend of on-demand subscription content, where a user can opt out just as easily as one opts in. So become a movement of sorts. Yeah, the correct definition, and it keeps coming back to it. Karen, we hit this kind of over and over and over. The cancel culture, and basically prompted by attitudes within the community which call for or bring about the withdrawal of support from a public figure, such as the cancellation of an acting role, a ban on the playing of an artist's music. Both affect their income, removal from social media, etc., usually in response to an accusation, not a condemnation, or it is a condemnation, but not not, yeah, I can't even think of the word, where they have been found guilty of said crime. An accusation. That's kind of where we are in this society because we don't go through a proper legal recourse, or it's all just trial by accusation. There's no evidence, there's no this and that. It is truly becoming a mob rule. And we have seen that on display in many, many, many places over the last 2 to 3 years. It's believable. I believe it's worth thinking about what accountability looks like beyond simply exiling someone. In doing so, we can position ourselves more firmly within the values of social justice. So if someone is just exiled without a trial, without reason, just do it because emotions or someone dares point a finger and scream in an echo chamber, then we don't understand, or the person doesn't have a position or a place to be able to respond appropriately. So it's kind of a cute cartoon. If we cancel every toxic person, we would have no culture because humans are a fundamentally flawed species. And that's the whole purpose of existence, is because we have things to work through, each and every one of us. So if you're afraid to speak out, if you're afraid to talk about a topic, then what's the point of the conversation? You just don't engage publicly. If you can't talk about your beliefs without triggering someone or being accused of something, whether it's aggression, microaggression, being racist, or whatever, then conversation completely shuts down. And when wars happen, if those warring parties, whether it's sisters, brothers, families, nations, if there are no open lines of communication, then how does that fight, that argument, that contest ever get resolved? So I thought this kind of humorous when I saw this today. Political spectrum chart: good, good, bad, bad. And all you can do, for those who enjoy geometry or math, you're right there, and everyone else is separate, is different, and they're of course a Nazi. And we seem to find that the term Nazi, or even experience with it like 40s, 50, 60, 70 years ago, is completely lost. They believe in the socialistic, where there's this oneness and everybody has oneness. And that completely ignores a person's individuality, which is the whole point of it all, is your individuality. That is your gift, because we all come from a place of unity down here to enjoy and nourish and flourish our individuality, to take those experiences back. All right, I think this is about the end of the cancel culture. It's a form of public shaming that tries to hold someone accountable for their actions by publicly calling out their behavior is problematic. Yeah, and what is problematic? That is completely unique to the situation, because what is problematic is somebody's views over Taylor Swift or Liam Neeson is completely different than what I or you would see. So it becomes a very, very kind of sketchy, um, right and wrong, a very unusual set of morality. Cancel culture has gotten out of hand when the media cancels a pandemic. And that's kind of where we went when we saw the Black Lives Matter take over the George Floyd issue and then run with it, and focusing on one incident of observed violence, when you can go to Chicago and see that same kind of violence happening nearly every other hour. This last weekend, 60 murders in Chicago. And yet, where is the outrage? Where is that balance in accusation? Where do we bring that kind of mob rage to account to a situation like that? So we're very picky about what kind of things we're going to rage on against. Yeah, exactly. It is our gift, Robin, and that's I don't want to say it's the only thing we have, but it's very, very special to us. Okay, our assumptions make things real, whether they are or not. And so when we look at something and see an objectionable experience, we're not seeing the whole thing. Videos of George Floyd from one side of the car versus another side of the car told a very different story. So, our assumptions about what we're being shown are kind of what we have to live with. All right, let's get back into from that into snowflakes. In 2010s, a derogatory slang term for a person implying that they have an inflated sense of uniqueness, back to individuality, aren't we? An unwarranted sense of entitlement, or an overly emotional and easily offended and unable to deal with opposing opinions. Common usages include the terms special snowflake, generation snowflake, and snowflake as a politicized insult. So this is someone who struggles to deal with, well, maybe their assumptions, but also the challenges that we're all dealing with in life. And there's no way anyone would be given a life without those challenges, because you as an individual will have to overcome those challenges individually with your own strength found from the inside and certainly with support on the outside. But that is the point of it all. And it's gotten so bad or so rampant. The Joker director, Todd Phillips, says the woke scolds and Twitter mobs have killed comedy because they can't take a joke. They can't see the humor. They can't see the wisdom or the lesson inside the experiences that is being talked about and discussed. So this puts these comedians in a very difficult place as to what would have been funny 10 years ago can get them banned, deplatformed, and jobless today. So how can you navigate people's sensitivities if there is no standard, if there is no accepted, okay, you can talk about this or not talk about this, and then I'm going to bring it right back to censorship. When is it okay to tell someone you can't talk? And even Obama has recognized that this culture isn't even activism. It's not that developed. It's not that evolved. Former President Barack Obama took a shot at the idea of young people feeling politically woke by being overly judgmental, saying that this is not activism. The story, speaking at the Obama Foundation Summit held at the Illinois Institute of Technology, Obama explained why he disagrees with the whole concept of woke culture among the young people, particularly on social media and college campuses. This idea of purity, that you're never compromised and that you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly, he said. The world is messy. Hear, hear. There are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws. People who you are fighting may love their kids and share certain things with you. Obama said that these young people are just pointing fingers at those with whom they disagree. Arguing such activism does not bring about change. And for me, that is the big thing. What kind of activism affects a change that is lasting? That is the challenge. He goes on to say one danger I see among young people, particularly on college campuses, he added, that I do get a sense that somehow among certain young people, this is accelerated by social media, of course, that there's a sense of sometimes of the way of me making changes to be as judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like if I tweet or hashtag about something that you didn't do something right, or you used the wrong verb, that I can feel pretty good about myself because, man, did you see how woke I was? I called you out. Obama goes on to say that is not activism. That's not bringing about change. If all you're doing is casting stones, you're probably not going to get that far. That's easy to do. And it is easy. And that's kind of where this crowd has evolved. They're woke. They have social media, so a very powerful way of connecting with a lot of people and inciting a movement. And if there's the potential of money behind this with another agenda, be it known or not known, then we've got another wild card in play out in the world. So my question is, how different is this kind of setup I wanted to go here, to what's happened with ISIL or ISIS in the Middle East? Guys wrapped in black, going around destroying things because of a difference of opinion. And who funded that movement as well? Where we see statues, monuments, those kind of things being destroyed. And ultimately, is there that much of a difference between what is happening in the Western world compared to what happened in the Middle East over the last couple of years, where these monuments, which were hundreds, if not thousands, and many thousands of years old, and parts of antiquity, the beginnings of this expression of human civilization, where's the benefit to anybody to affect this kind of destruction? It's not activism. It's just wanton destruction. So white supremacy stole our liberty. Is that really true? Did you not, by affecting and supporting this kind of movement that has resulted in canceling culture, the destroying of, I want to take this to the next step. Nah, there's one more back there that I wanted, this one. That how can white supremacy destroy history when it is these kind of social justice warriors in a cancel culture pretending to be woke, rewriting history? That's where it's happening from, because they're not allowing history to stand on its own so that we can learn from it. Because if we gut history, then we can't see where we've come from. We can't see and get an anchor as to where we're potentially going. And this is the issue I find mostly with restricting that free kind of movement. All right, this was just a comment posted on one of the videos I'd done recently. This Catherine says, "I live in Richmond, Virginia, and we know what's happened in Richmond over the last couple of weeks. And you can be darn sure I'm unhappy with all our statues being ruined. It dishonors the people that had to live it. This present generation has no right to remove, to cancel their experience. Nobody believes today that slavery is correct. And as you say, our present generation didn't commit these crimes of inhumanity." So this is what I thought was kind of interesting, and I wanted to go back. I'm gonna have to probably go back a few slides too. This gal, Aunt Jemima, and I honestly don't right now remember the company that has this brand, but they succumbed to the social justice warriors and are going to rename the product, even though her family, her heritage, that family, which, hey, this is my aunt, this was us, this was her recipe, this was her product, and honored by society. They don't want to see that happen. They don't want to see her legacy destroyed. So we're rewriting history, pretending things didn't happen. And it's unfortunate that, or maybe we're just being shown who are the stronger of the group, the people, those content creators that can stand up against this, raging against what are perceived injustices. And as we showed off earlier, those assumptions are made real by your belief in those particular assumptions. White privilege, total liberty held up by a white girl, right? Isn't that ridiculous? Eh, but it's a mob. It's a mob. And that, Martin, is, in my opinion, just about all it is. And it has become ridiculous. And that's where, how does this, I want to come on to the end. We'll go through this. And I'm kind of saddened that I didn't get over to Iraq, to Syria, to see these kind of cradle of civilization monuments before they were taken down. There's pictures and so forth. So people can say calling them a snowflake damages their mental health. Maybe. A new survey reveals that young people believe being called a snowflake could be damaging to their mental health. The new survey by the insurance firm Aviva found that 72% of 16 to 24-year-olds believe the term snowflake is unfairly applied to millennials. 74% of respondents took it a step further, arguing that they believe the use of the label could have negative effects on people's mental health. Maybe we just give them a trophy. All right, after being socially and politically conditioned by public education, professors, and the mainstream media for his entire life, he woke up one day with the inexplicable urge to actually think for himself, and the pain was unbearable. A little tongue-in-cheek there. So, got to get here with Oprah and be thankful for what you have, because you'll end up having more. That's a good way to look at it. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. And for those fighting for more for other people, in some ways, it is a noble cause. But is it the right way to go about it? Is there a way that something better, something more lasting can be developed from this, that doesn't require the use of sledgehammers, spray paint, and lighter fluid? There's got to be other ways to accomplish this kind of change without using those kind of tools. Those are very common tools, and anybody can use those, but they're not going to last the test of time. And so if those are the tools you are using to affect change, expect that change to be very, very short-lived. And that's not exactly the quote I wanted to have, but I suppose to end it all, we just have to realize that we're all down here in school with our individuality to help one another along, and a realization that none are foolish and none are wise. See only that the operation of that greater one, that greater divine will, is in effect everywhere. And I know I had another quote. I know I had something else in here, but I suppose I didn't, and that's the way it was supposed to be. All right, let's come back over here. Aunt Jemima was a fictitious character played by a real black woman at a World's Fair. Uncle Ben's rice products may also be changed. Did not know that yet. Did not know that. So, and we're going to go back and look at all of these products that have had a face put on them for marketing purposes, for marketing reasons. And I don't know how long that label has been out there, or Uncle Ben's either. But nevertheless, that's kind of where we are. All right. And of course, we're no longer able to sit Indian style or Indian wrestle. Yeah, what do they call that? A lotus position instead. It was Indian style, though. I remember that. I remember that very well. All right, guys, coming up on the bottom of the hour, and thanks for stopping by. I'm not quite sure where we want to go on Tuesday. Maybe we'll get back to the financial aspect of things as we get into next week. But certainly, we'll hit a weather show tonight at 5 o'clock Mountain. There's a lot of good stuff. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good stuff to look at. Some crazy videos to have a look at tonight. So join me then for a look at that. And one more from Martin. But the family descendants of Nancy Green, the model who played Aunt Jemima, are against the brand changes. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. And they should be. It's just some things are not so offensive that we can't look at them and just kind of enjoy the uniqueness and the history associated with it. It's not all bad, and it's certainly not all good. And therein lies the challenge: is letting good enough be enough, and then recognizing that those things we'd like to change, maybe we can have a hand in, and maybe they're just perfect the way they are because they're providing other people with lessons that they couldn't experience or learn from any other way. All right, thanks for stopping by, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday on Another Perspective. So keep looking up.